Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the International 2017 CIS playoffs.
I'm ready.
Are you ready for playoffs?
I am. You can see I've brought my very cozy blanket. It is actually way colder in here than it is out there.
Yeah, and you're getting a little sick.
A little bit.
You got
I'm
the
actually
slight plague.
I'm on the rebound.
Oh, you're on the rebound.
So I was
That must
much
mean I'm
more
about to get sick.
I was much more ill yesterday. Rob said something about like after Summit there was some bug going around or something. I probably caught it.
Fogged was hobbling around in that same blanket or a very similar looking one
Yeah.
yesterday, so
Smart man.
he may be infected now. But hopefully we are infected with something else here. Beautiful Dota. That's what we look for as we turned to CIS. So Andy, neither you or I really watched much CIS. We were mostly focused on Europe, so this will be a kind of learning experience for us how these teams are playing. M19 had a really hot start. We're leading the group. Ultimately ended up, and I think it was a 3 or 4-way tie.
It's
Four-way
four, yeah.
tie. All of the teams in the playoffs were 7-2, but they did end up ultimately finishing third based on tiebreakers, and so Vega, as the first place team, got to choose their opponent. They selected M19.
Well, I did beat him in the group stage as well. They're one of the only two losses M19 had. The other one was to Empire. So it makes sense. Vega feeling confident that they can take him down once again. Opening seems pretty standard from both teams. I mean, like you mentioned, we haven't really been covering the CIS region, but not seeing anything too out of the ordinary in regards to hero picks. Setting up the Queen of Pain very nicely by picking the Nyx first.
Yeah, these feel a little more normal than some of those group stage games. There were some like kind of unusual openings, but it's also BO3 Dota now. There's a lot more tape on these teams, so to speak, in the current patch, so perhaps less shenanigans. We'll see.
Yeah, I just think that people have a pretty good idea right now, because this patch has been out for a little while, of what heroes they think are the strongest. Like I'm a huge fan of Sand King. I like Nyx Assassin as well. In the support capacity, they both offer a lot. Great flexibility. They transition well. I would say that in some ways, Sand King, I guess he's better at staying relevant in regards to farm. Whereas Nyx, you kind of are level starved if you don't have a good game, and it can be very easy to fall behind if you are in that like 4 or 5 role. So we'll see what happens here for M19.
Yeah, generally when we see the Nyx, it's either like to counter a super, int heavy lineup or someone who's like really vulnerable to the Nyx. Or it's when you have a really good combo kill, like Invoker with Sunstrike comes to mind. So M19, see if they look to double down on this Quap with something else that can set up some easy kills. But as for me, grabbing the Rubik, so if they are running these both as supports, it could be a bit on the greedier side. But, still that option to run the Sand King as a core depending on how these lanes shake out.
I wouldn't be too surprised to see some kind of dual off lane. I think when you show Sand King Rubik opening, it does leave you a bit susceptible to having rather weak damage, at least, because like Rubik is pretty much just a lift. Fade Bolt's not crazy impressive on its own, and then I think you pick Sand King and then hope that M19 picks some kind of safe lane that you could potentially punish. Otherwise, you're going to have to probably emphasize securing your mid, because right now M19 having the Queen, it's a much more difficult hero to straight up lane counter, because if you pick Lina into this, for example, which I know G is a huge fan of, it's still kind of tough because you're playing into a Nyx, and Queen +1, no matter what kind of roaming hero it is, can always set up for a kill. So it's a bit tricky now deciding if they want to go for the more spam-oriented mid, if they want to pick something maybe a bit more physical damage-oriented, like we've been seeing a lot of TA across the European region. Not sure if that's spilled over into CIS, but it's seen a lot of success.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some, TA from like the likes of Virtus Pro as the main CIS team that's been attending a lot of the international lands heading into the qualifiers. But Vega go now for the Legion, so it is a support Sand King Rubik. Or would be pretty shocking if it's not anyway.
This hero's been seeing a lot of play, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they picked the Legion pretty early here. Like, generally when we see Legions, either you really want duel, like, say against Bristleback, you really want to be able to contest their safe lane, but you don't really know it's going there yet. So this is, like, just kind of a shift, I guess, where Legion was more of, like, a counter pick or situational hero in the past, but now it's just like, Legion's a good hero, and we just want to grab him if we think he makes sense for the lanes.
It still kind of is in that same line of thinking where if you have Legion, Sand King off lane, and it's a Nyx support and a Dazzle support, if both of those heroes aren't top all the time, that lane's going to be a struggle. That's the one concern right now if you're M19 is, okay, so do we secure our safe lane by picking a strong laning carry, or do we just swap our lanes out, try to avoid a potential very difficult lane As people who are watching the other stream, we just saw the Freedom versus NP game. And before that, we saw DC versus NP, where they had a MSS Legion commander who just completely destroyed the safe lane of DC. So
that was like that had to have been the record for most.
Oh, it was
plus
brutal.
damage for a Legion by the end of the game with the plus 40 talent.
At 5 minutes, this Mason's Lycan had 4 creep kills and 1 deny, and I think MSS had like 30 plus CS and like 15 denies, and he had a kill. It was unbelievable how much he did in that game. And
then it took 110 minutes.
Well, they had a, yeah, they took a little while to seal it out, but I don't think they were ever really in danger of losing it.
Yeah. Well, when there's a TI berth on the line, you don't mess around. So as for Vega, they've got plenty of lockdown here, really looking for damage. So you mentioned the Lina. Other than that, I guess there's like Invoker comes to mind. Can follow up that duel. It's a little bit susceptible as well to the Nyx.
Yeah.
The Dragon Knight, I was kind of thinking might be something Vega would consider for the mid lane, but Vega go for the AA, and this looks like it's either a Quartz, it's like a safe lane Legion, off lane Sand King, or it might be a core AA.
It could also be a mid Legion.
That's true.
Mid Legion can...
Is that good against Quap?
Yeah, you can take off the Shadow Strike, which is the primary form of harass against melee heroes, and you can have like one of the supports kind of rotating between mid and safe lane to make sure that you're not like getting dove or anything like that. I haven't seen it too much, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. The other thing they can do, well, I guess it kind of has to be a Rubik support, right? I've only seen like 2 AA mids ever.
It was, well, the one was Sumail, and EG was just so hot at that point. It's like, I feel like you can't even evaluate that game really, because Sumail was just playing out of his mind the entire event. But I'm trying to remember the second one. I mean, then obviously Dendy ran it like back in TI1 era, but
it's so hard to play that into Queen. Like, aggro blinks onto your high ground and one support. You are not a durable hero as AA.
Well, into this lineup, M19 are going to pick the Lycan, who, on paper, does struggle a little bit against Legion Commander generally, and as well as Sand King if, the Sand King's in the lane going for caustic harass.
10 seconds remaining.
They also have pretty good long duration lockdown. They're not like the best at mitigating physical damage, but this doesn't look like the dream Lycan game on paper. It just seems like it's a comfort pick for M19 they want to go for.
It's not too bad of a Lycan game. You're looking at the Rubik and the AA and you're thinking those are your targets more or less.
Yeah.
Depending on the Lycan's laning stage and how far ahead he can get, I think that it's entirely possible that it could turn out to be a great Lycan game. Because right now, Vega are entirely almost comprised of magical damage, and if this Lycan gets a good start, gets to his BKB, even if you get dueled, you have a Dazzle, right? It's not guaranteed anything, really. And on top of that, you have, like, Weave, which is extremely good against a Legion in general, and also the minus armor just synergizes with what Lycan wants to do anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm mainly just concerned about him getting contested early, but
yeah.
If he gets past that phase, he should be in good shape. Vega do ban the Underlord. Underlord, is reviled as of Epicenter as being, by some people's accounts, if not the worst hero in Dota, then one of the worst. But he's been seeing quite a bit of play in the qualifiers, Andy. So I'm not sure, if the hate is deserved. He's won a few games too.
They're scared of getting pushed, I think, is the main reason they ban him. So you could see the Darkseer in the first 2 taken out by Vega. It means that you're not going to have the mech carrier, the pipe, all that stuff. A hero who really does pressure the safe lane. And Underlord kind of functions similarly. Like, you can think of Tide, Darkseer, and Underlord, all of as kind of the same side of the coin. You spam your wave, you try to get pulls off, you build team-oriented items, and you kind of just deathball. With a Dazzle and a Lycan, adding to the deathball is a little bit scary for Vega because they don't have the best way to necessarily clear waves. They just have, like, the Legion Commander, a Fade Bolt, and SK, which can be very dangerous trying to sit in a sandstorm against a hero like Nyx as well.
Yeah, they do have Ice Blast, I suppose, so like overwhelming odds, Ice Blast, Fade Bolt. It's not amazing. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I guess we'll see.
It's also I think it's more just about like it being a natural pipe carrier.
Yeah.
Like Pipe owns Vega's team. It is so good in this matchup.
Yeah, do they step away from all this magic damage with this last pick? Like, if you're, I mean, are you thinking the Legion's the mid hero?
Well, with the Underlord ban, it feels like that could be a possibility. They're gonna take the Tide, so another hero that builds the team-oriented kind of style.
Into the Rubik too.
Yeah, I think it's okay actually, because if M19 are playing like this super fast-paced game where your Dazzle has max Shadow Wave, and you're just like pushing buildings with a Lycan, and you have Dazzle and Ty just standing at the tower, you might not even be forced to Ravage, you know what I mean? You're just there as a threat.
It's a good 5-man hero as well, so
Yeah.
kind of fits that mold the Underlord might have offered. And Vega now looking for their last core, and they are
That is
go
so greedy.
greedy into the Slark here. Ooh.
That is insanely greedy.
Well, there's really no good tools for a Slark if it gets late, but will he have his time?
Well, I guess they're still relying on their outspam. I mean, once Sand King gets some levels, it looks like it will end up being the mid Legion. But if the Sand King can get levels, and he's like split farming everywhere, they really only have 1 or 2 real methods of catch for that hero in particular. So maybe Afterlife's going to have a bigger role in this game in regards to trying to create space, just keeping the lane equilibrium, favoring Vega. Because there is going to be a lot of space necessary for this Slark. This is not an ideal early game for that hero at all.
Yeah, and he's up against some, you know, potentially obnoxious pressure here in the lanes. If, you know, the Tidehunter's down there, he's going to need help from these supports. They are going to be running the Legion mid, as you mentioned, so G going to be pretty much, I guess, the space creator this game. I mean, potentially Legion is a hero that can scale well, and obviously that gives them great setup for that Ice Blast. So very curious to see how these lanes go, with Vega looking quite greedy. Like, even the support duo need a ton of levels. The offlaner really needs a blink to be effective in the mid game. The Legion needs items. The Slark definitely needs a lot of items. You got 5 heroes who need a lot of stuff. M19, they want to push hard. They want to push early.
It is going to be tricky, I think, for Vega. If they can buy time, their lineup will eventually become very difficult to push into and ultimately go high ground against. Obviously, AA, one of the better heroes at that. If you're just purely 5-manning around, Overwhelming Odds is also a fantastic tool for any kind of deep push, but like you mentioned, it is a waiting game here for Vega, whereas M19, it's going to be pressure, pressure, pressure.
All right, let's see if they can make it work. M19, certainly, they had a hot group stage to get here, starting off as one of the top dogs moving in. So we get underway now. We'll have Muriel on the Dazzle going for his early warding mission. Slayer on this Rubik for Vega, looking to do the same. Does manage to get a ward down. Misha hanging out in the neighborhood. Smoke was not broken, so some sneaky wards being planted. Looks like Muriel's going to get another one down near mid, potentially. So as far as our laning setup goes, for the Radiant, looks very standard. For the Dire, also, actually, no, it looks like they may switch it up. They're looking to run the safe lane Tidehunter. It'll be 1v1 against the Sand King, and they are going aggressive with the Lycan, so
Makes sense.
they want to pressure this Slark early, it looks like.
Slark can, like in a dual lane, or like tri-lane versus tri-lane, he is extremely weak. I don't know what really they're going to be able to do about it, necessarily. Like, even if it's just Lycan and Dazzle, you have to have kind of both supports in the same area to really contest the wave.
Mm-hmm.
And if it ends up being like some tri versus tri lane, then yeah, sure, maybe you have some kill potential with the Chilling Touch, but otherwise it is still a little bit tough.
All right, the horn blows, and we get underway here. Vega taking on M19, best of 3. It is a double elimination format, and we will get to see more of these teams no matter what. Winter bracket finals to be played at the conclusion of today, and by the end of the day, we'll know one of the 2 teams that is going to have a shot at going to the International as the lone CIS qualified team. So it's been kind of a bloodbath so far, and will continue to be the case.
Yeah, 4-way tie. Not as bad as the China qualifiers, though. They had like a 5-way tie or something, or 6 maybe even.
At least they're not done yet, I guess, but yeah, still, it's going to be potentially a very hectic end to the Chinese qualifier.
It looks like M19 starting off with the tri-lane. Gonna force Vega's reaction. This is not where Slark wants to be.
So, mid lane, Legion versus Quap, you think it's like pretty good for the Legion commander overall?
It's alright. I would still say the Queen is probably favored. But one of the big benefits of running Legion mid is it is just so hard to gank. So if for whatever reason, you know, they start rotating around, like they send the Nyx mid or whatever to try to get a kill, it's pretty tough. G's gonna have to get real careless to die.
Bottom lane. The real you taking that heal bomb. He went for Essence Shift at level 1. Is forced to salve up real early. And the Dazzle already having quite the presence here bottom. Of course, Nyx, extremely annoying to play against in these scenarios with that massive regen, and is already getting to work on Slayer. So Vega getting bullied pretty hard. They've got, you know, quite a bit of damage with the Chilling Touch active, but outside of that, this is a very weak tri-lane, so really going to have to play this passively. The one lane we haven't looked at yet is this top lane, Sand King versus Tidehunter. Normally, both of these heroes really excel at bullying other melees. Andy, do you give an edge to either hero?
I think Sand King is just going to do what he's doing now, cut the wave. He'll get more out of it than the Tide, because Caustic Finale doesn't care about Kraken. So contesting the wave straight up is pretty much not something that I think Funny can do in this situation. So what Afterlife is going to do is he's going to get the neutrals and he's going to pull at the same time. Pretty much not really doubling his farm, but just getting a nice boost. And unfortunately, Funnick, if he's just under his tower all the time, he won't take damage, but he's certainly not going to farm as well as Afterlife.
I did grab that early Quelling Blade, as did Afterlife, so both players just looking to get their early farm, get those early team fight items, be it the Blink Dagger, be it the mech for the Tide. We'll see what they want to go for, but yeah, this mid lane going really well for G. Already 16 and 5.
Yeah, a bit surprising actually that he's been able to do so well in the first few waves. I guess it makes sense though, because if you look at the creeps, he got double waved, so he'll be getting a fair amount of CS under his tower.
Yeah, Nyx did grab the haste rune earlier. G's gonna back off for a bounty, has his bottle coming out now, so pretty passive start here. Do you, I guess, like, what's the key kind of things you're looking at, Andy? Is there a certain hero rotating around, or particularly like level where things really change for either team?
I think it's all just about this bottom lane. Like right now, the Slark is getting a fair amount. He's actually higher CS than, you know, what the Lycan currently has, which is not really a good sign, especially considering, you know, you want that Nyx to be able to get 6, obviously. And I think that he's maybe a bit more reliant than, you know, the supports of Vega. So it could be maybe a sign that this lane is not going as well as they wanted it to, and they might just eventually transition out of it completely.
Yeah, in which case Vega will be happy. They can focus on getting their support levels, maybe go for some sort of smoke play. But M19 for now sticking around in the try-on-try. And just continue to see these lanes going really well for Vega as G almost finds a first blood with the overwhelming odds on Nyx, actually forcing him entirely out of the lane. I mean, Legion is known for being annoying in the laning stage, but this is an absolute wrecking ball of a performance thus far.
He's just pressuring the lane super hard. You know, he's spamming the overwhelming odds, always making sure that he's hitting the Queen of Pain. That's one thing that I think a lot of people forgot about mid-Legion, is because when they changed overwhelming odds to deal more damage to heroes than to creeps, it became a way better harassment tool in lane. Whereas before it was pretty much just a method to push the wave out. Now you can deal substantial damage to even a ranged hero.
G is going to have a big level advantage. Queen of Pain actually having to hoof it all the way back to base, then TP in. So G getting those free denies in, all the while CSing as he'd please. But there is a nice 2-hero pale in the bottom lane. Misha looking to make plays. They are going to get the slow onto the Rubik, and now they make their move. Blinking forward, Nyx wants to go for the 2 first. Slayer's going to TP out. The heal comes through. Does barely get the kill. Looked like the greed might have cost them, but they will secure the Slayer takedown. So early rotation by Nyx. Good way to adapt to this mid lane being a struggle, but Jesus, comfortable CSing for now.
I wonder what the route he's going to take is. He's going for the early treads, but I'm curious if he goes for just the straight up Blink Dagger, try to pressure that way, or if he wants to go a little bit more greedy. Because it kind of makes sense in a way to go for the Blink first, because you do have the AA ulti, and then because your Sand King is having such a nice time in the top lane, you can assume that Afterlife is going to have a pretty good timing on his Blink as well, so the synergy is definitely there.
Yeah, and with the Slark in theory, who's also farming pretty well, like, you have other sources of damage here. Legion doesn't have to be, you know, a hard carry or anything. You also have the Ice Blast. I mean, really, it's looking pretty damn good for Vega. You know, sure, they give up a first blood, but they're still up on gold here. They have the greedier draft. They're not losing the lanes. The towers aren't really under pressure. Even if it's even early, like, even is good for Vega.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have a Slark against a tri-lane.
First duel of the game. Will they be able to get that kill? Nyx stays alive. Lift is there. Blake's back, and he's out of there. Close call, but he will make it out. Didn't quite get the procs necessary in the moment of courage.
That was really close, though. And again, it's another time that he's going to be forced pretty much. Well, I guess he doesn't have to go back to base. The Shrine's off the land.
Muriel pressuring the real you here. Gonna force him back a bit. Gets that little pesky heal bomb in as Nyx is gonna make his second rotation of the game. Keeps up trying to prey on this bottom lane. Moving in with Misha, blinking, and they are gonna isolate the Rubik. Now trying to turn this one. The Carapace comes out, the TP inbound as G looks to get aggressive. Oh, they got the cold feet proc, and now G. One more auto attack would bring Nyx down, actually make it 2. He keeps on bottling up. Duel is available. G not going to get in range, so he misses that opportunity. Simultaneously, Muriel going all in for the Slark kill. The real use low. He's not dead yet, though. He's going to pounce away. TW getting about. Finally, the duel commit. It's onto the Nyx, though. A very tanky target who has stick charges, has Carapace. Not going to get them off. The real you helping for the finish there. And meanwhile, Tidehunter and Sandkane just chilling up top, farming away. But you got to figure either of these heroes could be a huge contributor in these fights if they want to TP.
Having the Ravage available this early too, I think you could probably just TP the Tide and just take the tower, honestly. I mean, sure, it's at a decent amount of health, but you have that Lycan, you have the Queen as well with the Sonic Wave. I guess Nyx is not really having the best time because he's only level 6 right now. He's actually 2 levels behind the Legion currently on the Queen of Pain, but that's just due to the fact that he's been moving to this bottom lane to try to pressure it even harder.
I got so confused when you said the Nyx is only level 6. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I'm like, wait a second, Misha's level 6 already? What's happening? But
I should have just said Queen.
No,
that would have been.
It's okay. I like being confused. It makes things interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
Best kind of Dota is when no one knows what's happening.
Yeah, and in Russia that often is the case. So our fingers crossed we get a true classic CIS Dota here. They have found an opening, though. Epicenter getting revved up. They want to get onto Nyx, and they will find the duel. They get the kill, too. First winner of the game. Nice rotation there as Afterlife tag teams with G, taking Nyx the Quap down.
Nice little movement there. Just getting some damage. Unfortunately for G, the other 2 duels, they were pretty close in regards to giving him a duel damage. But
they're looking to put Silent to sleep here, and they will be successful. M19 find that Ancient Apparition. They have been preying on the support, though. I mean, you mentioned the Rubik AA are pretty squishy, fairly vulnerable, and we're certainly seeing that early.
It's really hard for them until they get, I guess, to level 6. Let's see, levels 4 and 4, so not too bad. Eventually, though, once the Ice Blast is up, it's going to be a lot harder for M19 to play as aggressive as they are.
So, any adjustments you want to see from either team, or are you comfortable with the way they're both playing this out so far?
I mean, G from Vega is doing great. Safe lane, the Slark is still farming pretty much on par with the Lycan, and as you mentioned earlier, a trade's fine, so I think that Vega are looking pretty alright. As long as they can get Silent at level 6, and then Shioma, he's going to need one as well on his Rubik. I think they should be fine, and M19, they just need to keep fighting.
They want to make something happen on Afterlife here. He kills off all the creeps, though, so there's not going to be a big heal bomb opportunity as he burrow strikes down to the low ground. Nyx is there to greet him. Not to his liking. Even commits the ult still. Afterlife very tanky. He did pick up the raindrops. They blow the Ravage as well. Another Scream. He almost gets himself denied to Roshan. They're barely able to take him down. That is a tanky Sandkane with those raindrops.
That took so long. 4 heroes and a Ravage.
Double ult.
Sonic Wave.
No problem.
That's honestly just space. Because now this Tide's going to TP bottom, and, you know, Aloha Dance is like, yeah, whatever, dude. You don't even have Ravage. Why are you in my lane?
Despite the death, the Sandkane is still very close to his Blink Dagger. 1,300 gold, 10 minutes in. You know, when Sandkane's gotten this many levels, like, you're not really going to stop him from farming it. There's plenty of jungle camps he can go to. Very difficult to gank. With the ults down, have to expect a fast Blink is in the cards for Afterlife.
And that's going to be allowing them to pretty much defend any tower. Again, it's just level 6 on the AA and then the Blink on Afterlife. And they have eventually transitioned out of this kind of offensive lane that they had before. Like, it's made his way towards top and the supports are with it now.
Afterlife being real cocky here, but
it's way too
M19
hard.
Can't do anything about it.
Yeah, they can't kill him like this. Dazzle Nyx is nowhere near enough to take him down.
So what is the Legion build? Looks like G wants to go Armlet, of all things. So going a little bit more for like the carry Legion commander, a bit more of a frontline tank, which, to be fair, they don't really have a proper frontliner. Like Sandkane is certainly no Tidehunter in that regard.
It's a super value item on any strength hero, and if your main concern is being ran at, then having something like an armlet to give you that just effective boost of health, damage, armor, and life regen, it kind of offers you everything that you really want on a strength melee hero whose primary purpose is, like you said, to just sit there and absorb damage. So I think it's a pretty solid choice overall.
A bit over 1,000 gold lead here for Vega at 12 minutes in. Slow but steady progress for a lineup that certainly is very happy to take their time. Silent is closing in as level 6, getting a little personal space. M19 look to punish that though. First vendetta move of the game is Misha. Gonna creep up here on the bottom lane, but Silent is prepared for this maneuver. Hides very far back in the tree line, just tucked away. Looks like he's not going to get caught. And in just a moment, we're going to see Afterlife grab this Blink Dagger, at which point it gets a little scary to start diving towers.
The real concern is, did M19 do enough in the lanes? You know, currently it's about a 1k net worth lead for Vega, and that's kind of just an ode to how well G did in the middle lane, and Aloha Dan still managing to get a tremendous amount of farm, even under pressure of a tri-lane. I'm unsure if having the Nyx down there with everyone else was really necessary, just because of the lane going even is more of a loss for M19 than anything else. Whereas Vega just go, okay, whatever. You know, our Slark's going to be able to go to the jungle and just hit creeps. He's got his Iron Talon up already.
Well, they've got Ice Blast. They've got the Blink. And the Blink, I don't think actually was scouted, because Afterlife came through the northern route for that Secret Chop. The Ice Blast is chucked out, but no backup for the Ancient Apparition. Early takedown here. And now Vega going to smoke. They want to play around this Blink. So the first debut of that. Armlet not ready just yet, but G is swarming towards the bottom lane. Might get caught off here, though. There's 5 heroes already in position for M19. And it looks like Muriel's going to find Slayer first and foremost, but Afterlife there, looking for the turnaround, blinking forward. There's the steal. However, he'll die very quickly. The Grave comes out, keeping Muriel alive, even through the duel. Now the Ravage to counter-initiate, very well executed by M19 as they charge forward. They're going to take down G. The Wolf is at your door already. It's a bit early for that, you'd think, and LTW wastes no time in munching up Afterlife. 3 have fallen. And this is the downside to having a Slark on your team. He is not going to help you in those early skirmishes.
Well, it was that in conjunction with, you know, Silent had just pretty much died before that. They had all their ultimates up, and there was no Ice Blast to be found. That is one of the biggest teamfight utilities that Vega currently have, is just having that ultimate to throw out and, you know, secure a kill on a hero that maybe gets shallow graved, for example, because you will just shatter after it wears off. Has a long enough duration to be able to kill anyone who's shallow graved. But nice play from the Dazzle too, managing not to give away any damage there.
Yeah, Rubik has level 6, did get the spell steal off in that particular fight. We'll see if Slayer can steal some more valuable spells as the game moves along. Certainly quite a few that would be nice to have, be it the Nyx Assassin stun. Vendetta's pretty nice for just scouting. Carapace can occasionally be very useful. Obviously there's some big team fight ultimates in the shallow grave, but Nyx goes deep here in the middle lane, doesn't have his ultimate. He commits on the sound, he's going to get lifted up, tossed back down into the Ice Blast. Quick feed for him. Very cocky maneuver gets punished while G is looking for a duel on Misha. He's going to run back in and away from that Legion Commander, but there's going to be a Burrow Strike. Follow-up comes through, gets the last-second duel connection. Easy damage.
That's a really kind of awkward movement. I mean, starting off with the Queen behind the Tier 1 and the Tier 2, they didn't really have any vision here either. Very risky play coming in from M19.
If she had the ult, it makes sense. Can just kill the AA, get out, but with the ult on cooldown.
Well, the other thing, too, is maybe they're just feeling the pressure, right? They say, okay, our lanes didn't really go maybe quite as well as we wanted them to, and our first Ravage got us, or I guess technically second Ravage got us a Tier 1 tower, which is okay, but we still need to continually just go. We can't really sit on our laurels and let this Slark continue to creep on the map.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not very good at ganking that Slark. Like, Nyx is okay, but until Queen of Pain gets a completed Orchid, you really don't have much reliable disable for him. No Disruptor to really lock him down early on. So Vega look to hold this tower. They do have the Epicenter ready, and Afterlife lurks in the trees. Bunnik is going to find him here, and he blinks back right into the waiting arms of Misha. Could be a big opportunity if they want to go on the Sand Cannon. Indeed, they appear to, but G has already joined the fray. He's got the Armlet, quite tanky, duel available. Go get the lift back, and now the Ravage committed. It's just for G coming in as Afterlife. He blinks onto Muriel is trying to bring that Dazzle down before he's able to get off the grave. Will be successful, but the pipe is here. That mitigates nearly all of the Ice Blast. Slark still not coming to fights. They've lost 2, Rubik, as well as the Legion. And now the Sand Cane, blinking forward, wants to cut this wave off and deny them this push on the middle tower. But fortunately, M19, they don't care. They'll just hit it straight up. Meanwhile, Nyx, diving for Silent, committed the ultimate for this. Doesn't have the follow-up mana to go for the kill. Bit discombobulated from M19, though they do get the tower in the end. They also give Slark a free tier 2, or about half a tower's worth of damage, as well as a tier 1.
Vega are currently making the better moves on the map. Sure, they lose G there, but like you mentioned, they're fighting basically 4v5 until Aloha Dance has the items that he feels are good enough to go and take these fights with. He's currently sitting at 126 CS in a 17-minute game as a Slark who got tri-laned against, which is very, very impressive. So for now, Vega are still feeling pretty good overall. And M19, you know, as soon as these cooldowns are up, they gotta go again and just keep repeating this process. Eventually, you're gonna want to also secure Roshan. But it's going to be tough against Vega to get Roche.
They do see Slayer now. Misha on the hunt, but has the raindrops, has the bracer, and won't be the easiest kill. They'll need that +1. Insta-lift! Slayer was ready with that sentry ward getting dropped, but unfortunately for him, there is a pack of dust. Even though he steals Vendetta, he will not make it out. He stalls, he creates space, but he will drop.
2 or 3 really strong heroes showing on the map right now for M19. Just more space for the Slark. Afterlife sitting right by the tier 2 tower in the top lane as well. That's one of those ganks where you look at it and you say, okay, well, we got a support. You know, we got a kill. But it takes a really long time for M19 to push this wave out bottom to even get to the tier 2 to pressure. So they're not really going to be able to force anything other than that.
Yeah, the Slark continues to farm right there with the Lycan. Already Shadowblade complete, the real you. Just continuing his rotation through the jungle, and I imagine you'll see more of that from Vega. Just supports kind of fearlessly going deep to get these wards down, tanking ganks wherever they can.
Yeah, it's I think the proper way to play. Silent probably doesn't want to do that, but you know, Afterlife can do it, Shioma can do it, no problem.
Vega just content to sit on their side of the map. M19 taking a little time to farm, so look at them. We're going to see a BKB under construction for the Lycan. Misha trying to get towards that Blink Dagger. Funnick, after completing the pipe, is now going back to a Force Staff. And Nyx closing in on the Orchid. In fact, I believe flying out in the Courier now. So Orchid complete. They'll have this window where they can punish the Slark. Let's see if, potentially at least, let's see if they're able to find him. But Vega, they're not going to make that easy. They've got 3 heroes parked right behind him.
He's also already got a Shadowblade, so unless you get like the perfect Blink Initiate with the Sentry or a Dust already there, it's going to be pretty difficult. They are grouping up to push the top offlane tower though, so it looks like this will probably just end up being a trade.
A pretty standard Lycan build here for LTW, just the Armlet Mask of Madness, going back for the BKB.
This is a very early BKB though, if you think about it. Like a lot of Lycan players, you go the mid-game BKB to try to get as much dominance in the team fight as possible. Bottom lane, and he'll be okay. So they don't actually lose their offlane tier 1, which is nice. TPing the watermelon in the front. Pretty menacing, don't really want to go on that if you're Vega.
Yeah, M19 do have, that's I guess the one trump card they have for now, at least is the Lycan is a better pusher than anyone on the Radiant squad, so ideally would like to try and take advantage of that as much as humanly possible. As once again, they've come prepared with the sentries. Misha unable to get off the stun. He's looking for it wildly off the mark. And now Mana Bird will be stolen, only level 1. Was hoping for that Impale, I think, but still the sentry game has really been on point for Vega, and it's been limiting Misha's effectiveness quite substantially.
The way that Vega are playing, given the fact that composition-wise they're typically on the back foot at this stage, is very impressive. Like they've done a great job at making sure that, like you said, the vision's always down for the Nyx. They're making sure that everyone's spread out. Like, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, but, you know, in the rock, paper, scissors of Dota, split push typically beats 5-man Dota, which is what M19 wants to do right now. It's just a matter of, can M19's 5-man crack the base fast enough?
Well, if the rock isn't working, then they'll try the boulder. M19, all 5, marching up, already looking to force those TP reactions. Slark is currently split pushing top lane. Once the tier 2, they're going to force out the glyph. M19 do stick around here. Very early attempt to break down this first lane, at least get the tier 3 so they can access these shrines. But Vega stubbornly holding the line. They are going to take a tower for the Slark. The Real U now closing in on a what looks like a completed Silver Edge, so it'll be a nice tool to try to burst this Tide Hunter down, limit the Lycan's effectiveness in team fights, make them a bit tankier.
It's huge for the Tide. That's a big thing. Like, if you can kill the Tide before he Ravages, oh my, that is just a one-team fight, like, just straight up.
M19, they didn't quite get the tower, but they certainly did good damage to it as Vega make their own move forward, smoking up and boldly plunging towards M19. They're going to embark past the river and looking for the jump of Muriel. The Real U gets the pounce off. Should be able to grave here in time, and he will do so successfully, though. He's still being locked down with the cold feet. He's in a lot of trouble, and Muriel, or Afterlife rather, connects to the 2-hero Broshik. The Ravage is there to counter-initiate. The Real U keeps on going in deeper and committing with the follow-up from G. They get the duel. They take that watermelon down, slice it right open. The epicenter is going to mark a successful follow-up to this fight. 3 have fallen. M19 in shambles. They blew the Shapeshift, the Quapple, the Ravage, and they got absolutely wrecked anyway in the fight.
That was just a perfect initiation. You know, they forced the Tide to Ravage because he's scared that he's going to be dying before he can get the heroes that he really wants to hit. And because the Slark was the one going in, there was no surprise factor. It's not like Funnick has a blink or anything. He's just walking around in the front line as that very tanky, I want to be the front line of my death ball type of hero. So they abused the weakness of the hero perfectly, and as soon as it had that Silver Edge, it was just Funnick couldn't do anything about it.
And now you've got problems with your M19. You do not have the best anti-Slark lineup. He has an Aegis. He's the most farmed hero in the game. You have not broken the base yet. And Vega are in the driver's seat. So what do M19 do? Do they play even more desperately and like try to force the issue more? Do they slow it down, try to restructure their game plan and go late? Seems like a pretty big blow to them.
Going late's pretty difficult. They have the itemization to try to end the game now. That's what they've built for. Like, the Queen is going for BKB. If you wanted to stretch the game out, you would probably just end up going for Linken's because there's a Legion and a Blink Sand King. But because he's going for the BKB, it just tells me that they don't want this game to go on anymore. Afterlife with a solid TP out there. But I think that M19 have kind of just admitted the fact that, okay, if this game goes on at the current rate, there's a good chance that we're not going to be able to deal with the Slark. And that's not even accounting for, you know, G, who's had a great performance so far on the Legion, and Afterlife, who's had some pretty sick epis. There's a lot of problems right now.
And look at this, Andy. They've already got a gem with a Slark in the game, so
yeah.
Say goodbye to any sort of vision if you're M19.
This is just very well played from Vega.
Looking, honestly, a lot more disciplined and organized than some of the Dota we saw in Europe.
Yeah, for sure.
This feels like a step up, at least from those group stage games.
The crazy thing is, it was a 4-way tie in the CIS region. So this game is like, it's a very high quality game in the sense that both teams have a very obvious game plan and what they want to do, and they're executing the moves that they think that it's going to get them to the point they want to be. But Vega are just, like, the laning phase went way too well for them, I think. Maybe going to aggro tri-lane wasn't ultimately the best thing to do.
Yeah, Sandkin had like the freest lane you can imagine there, and then they didn't really start down the Slark, and then to make matters even worse, Legion was actually beating Queen of Pain.
Yeah, I honestly want to watch the replay to see how G played it. I have a feeling what happened was, you know, he gets a rune early on when he has Bottle, and sometimes that can just be the difference between winning and losing the lane. You know, one hero gets the rune, because all the supports were accounted for, right? They were all bottom. So if he gets lucky and gets a good rune, that can be the difference maker in the mid lane when no one else is going to be influencing it.
I love this pickup by Slayer. He's going to grab that early Rodabate to his great control for the Queen of Pain, as well as for the Lycan, who did not end up going for the early BKB. Did back off for the completed Halberd, so nice snare for the Wolf in these upcoming team fights.
He's feeling a bit squishy, I would think. Like, Lycan doesn't have a ton of armor. Like, his base armor is only 5, and he's a level 14 hero, so he's getting the Halberd just means that you could put it on Slark. Obviously, can't be dispelled. You could put it on the Legion, for example, too. Just lets him be that tanky hero that he wants to be. And again, it is a cost-effective item, too. All these things just kind of leading into that point where they want to walk down a lane and try to just take that Rax.
Well, they'd better do it soon. Problem is, items continue to pile in for Vega. Now, as you mentioned, a completed BKB on the real U. There's about to be a real royal pain in the rear for M19. They don't have anything on a BKB, just quap ult. That's about it.
That's two 10-second BKBs, actually. And a DD on G.
This is not looking good for M19. They need like a dream Ravage, it feels like. But the real U is going to make that hard as he looks to initiate, find a quick pick. Swimming around, marching forward. Just Vega in full offense mode right now.
The thing about these types of maneuvers as well for Vega is that they don't really... Okay, say they lose a fight. Like, Roshan's not up. So it's like, whatever happens, it's still going to take time for M19 to get something off the map, and they're most likely going to have to expend Ravage. So even if they were to take a fight and lose at this juncture, which seems unlikely given the vision advantage they have in the bottom lane, that it wouldn't necessarily be something that M19 can just get something off of. You know, maybe they get a bit of damage on the tier 2 mid or something, but it seems like Vega have a very clear idea of how strong they are right now.
Yeah, looking to take advantage of it. They've occupied the M19 bottom lane as Slark just freely pushes this tower. They want to move onto this mid tier too, which is really a decaying wreck. It's only got 114 health left, so likely see the tier 2 mid fall momentarily. The real U still holding that Aegis for a few precious seconds longer. Will be retreating out. And then Vega are going to have a significant map control advantage if they're able to keep their own towers up, which so far they've been quite successful at. And again, they're ready with these sentries. And in fact, Misha walks right into the waiting arms of Slayer, who came prepared for this Nyx. It's not been a problem at all.
Well, I think this might be another tower. Oh, Dazzle?
Might be more than that, as they're going to find Muriel. Gets off the grave. Not likely to... Actually, is going to be able to complete the TP, but still, Vega in full offense. This is going to set up for the tower push. And should give them the map control edge heading towards that next Roshan. As Afterlife looks to make it an additional kill he's going to find. LTW starts it with the Yules, buying time for the team to come in. Nice blasts there, burrow straight through. Doesn't even manage to start the ultimate morph. It will be leashed, locked in position by the Rubik Rod of Atos. No escape. The big bad wolf ain't looking so big or so bad right now.
It's a very hard game for the Lycan right now. When the team fight starts off, but you're basically losing heroes straight up.
Look at this, Andy. They're going high ground. BKB. G gets the duel. He wins. Solo diving in there. 74 damage already for him. And now Rubik stealing the Nyx stun. And to go with that, he's also a wolf. So you've got a max move speed Rubik with a stun and a lift combo. Finally, that wolf form will end, but Vega already looking to crack the space wide open. They've still got a BKB on the real U. Heading back, G's baiting, and now they make the move forward onto the Tidehunter. They are able to remove the Kraken Shell. He goes splat. The watermelon explodes, and all you can do is play a sad trombone indeed. I think that is very fitting for the state of the game right now. That Silver Edge just shutting the Tidehunter down.
Vega just, every single time they initiate, they get the perfect openings, you know? Like G's duel was on point, they killed the Tide, he wasn't even able to hit Ravage because he just got Silver Edge straight away. Just mechanically speaking, Vega are doing all the proper maneuvers in the fights to ensure that the outcome is optimal every single time.
Yeah, their timings are good in the fights. Their timings have been good strategically in terms of when they make moves, where they go, how they approach those movements, and the item selection has been really effective. Feels like Tidehunter's not really a hero in this game with the double BKBs. The Legion just BKBs jumps in, goes for a duel, and someone's dead. Slark can pretty much do the same. The Silver Edge has been a great solution to the Kraken Shell, and M19 have just been reeling from this extended sequence of basically flawless decision-making by Vega.
And maybe the answer for M19 was just maybe sending Funnick to bottom a little bit faster. Like, he waited quite a while before he started teleporting, and I want to say the first time he made an appearance in the safe lane of Vega, he didn't even have Ravage because he just used it to kill Afterlife. So I think, like, emphasizing the importance of getting the tier 1s down is maybe where M19 started to find a little bit of issue. Because even if you trade equal farm in that try versus try, it's okay because the Lycan still ends up hitting his timing faster than you.
They want to go on this Queen of Pain. Easy first hit bash for the real U. That'll force M19 to retreat a little bit. Reinforcements are arriving. But yeah, I mean, it feels like either the lanes need to be swapped sooner, or they had to have like planned on, you know, playing more greedily, but that doesn't really seem to suit the lineup.
No, not at all. You don't want to drag out the game as Lycan versus the Slark Legion. It is a definite problem right now for them. Another double damage here on G as well. So looks like Vega are going to be able to get Roshan with relative ease.
Great start for them as they look to jump out to a 1-0 advantage here. M19 had a strong group stage, but this is where the boys are separated from the men down the stretch in the playoffs. Only one TI slot available for the CIS team, so expect it to be bloody. As Vega grab the Aegis, they'll put it on the real U, and M19 look to make an ambush happen. But the ambush is actually the Rubik's to start it off. The Ravage will come out, no BKB on the Legion, he pops it a bit late, the Queen of Pain ult comes over the top. Slayer trying to steal here, but he only gets the Gush. Now being mowed down by the Lycan. A decent fight for the Dire, but even decent is only a 2 for 2, and all they get are supports for it. No cores. Funnick now going for the TP out Afterlife. Fishing for him. Won't find him in time. Even when they get the jump, Andy, it's still tough.
Yeah, it's just the timing of the Aegis as well. Like, Aloha Dance having the Aegis for when they were pushing in bottom, they knew that they wouldn't contest. They had plenty of vision around the area. They just were so good at pinpointing when their team was the strongest and what M19 had to do to win the game. They just consistently were able to throw a wrench in that plan. You can see why in the group stage that Vega were able to beat them. It just seems like, after having watched this match, of course we didn't cover the CIS region, you and I personally, but it seems like they have a very good solution to how M19 are playing the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of tape on these teams now, so, you know, perhaps something that they've been able to leverage to their advantage here in the rematch. But M19 on the ropes now. It's going to take a series of extremely big blunders by Vega to turn this game around. So far, it's been basically flawless Dota from Vega. Wrapping around top, looking for the Queen of Pain, who, oh, as I say that, Caster's Curse connects. They're going to, with the Ice Blast here, the Burrow Strike also not connecting. Might be an opening, and now the Nyx missing his own stun. A comedy of errors almost. So M19 are able to punish. They'll find the Rubik. They're looking for more. 3 shots and Silent will get munched down. And now G looks to make his move. Going for the duel, but the Grave is going to prevent this from being a duel victory. And then the stun. The lockdown comes through. G's going to die. The real U comes in. The epicenter is there, but M19 have the whole squad working in tandem. Well, I mean, there's Caster's Curse, and then there's the Doomsday Curse, apparently. M19 just out of nowhere bait Vega into a horrible situation. Massive advantage just slipping away from them. Yeah, they have the lane of Rax. It's certainly not a complete comeback yet, but that was about as sloppy as it gets.
Yeah, initiation-wise, that was definitely not what you want if you're Vega. It was such a strange fight, too, because it seemed like the Epi did, like, no damage at all.
I guess the pipe was active for some of that, I think.
Yeah, that probably was it.
Dazzle heal maybe came out 2 times there.
The other thing that's important to note is that G had cheese, but he died, like, probably a quarter of a second before he was able to use it, because he was just stuck in the duel for so long. If that had gone off, perhaps, you know, Vega can brute force their way through that fight, because it's almost a full heal.
I mean, you look at that fight, like, the Burrow Strike missed initially. Queen of Pain throws the Yules out right as the Ice Blast comes in. Vega then proceed to duel with the Legion, but there's no follow-up damage because Dazzle gets off the Grave, so he doesn't win the duel, doesn't get off the cheese. I think he did get off the BKB, actually. And then the real U comes in, like, 1v5. The epicenter only hits really the pipe and 2 Dazzle heals. Like, that's about as poorly coordinated as it's going to get for Vega. 19 ideally are finding more of those fights where they just either Vega make big mistakes or they have an overwhelming initiation advantage.
Well, speaking of, there is a blink now on Tide.
This could be big. Shiva's to start. Now the Silence coming through. They're going to lock down the Rubiks. They know Slayer's done for. They want more. They're going to Gush Silent. Maybe kill him off too. But this Ice Cream Cone is down for the count. Silent will fall. The supports are chain feeding now. M19 able to punish. And suddenly Vega have to be a little nervous. That is about a third of their lead wiped out over the last couple minutes.
Very nice movement coming in for M19, just taking the initiative after they win that really big fight, saying, okay, there's a probability that Vega, they go back to their kind of farming, because that's what their lineup kind of wants to do. You want Aloha Dance to get his items, G to get his items, etc. Looks like he's going to be kind of stuck on this cliff for the time being.
No teleport scroll on the real U. Like, sure, he's got the BKB, he's got the Shadow Dance, he's going to be a tough kill, but it also seems like a possible one. The dust comes out, the BKB there to purge it out. He's going to leap away again, but Misha there getting leashed right as the real U pounced out. Still they chase forward. Still they commit for this. The Gush, the Ravage, he jumps out. The Glimmer Cape is there. The stolen Ravage by Slayer. M19, it's a bridge too far for them, and now the counterplay comes through. The Dazzle on the high ground, waiting in the waves with the Grave. He gets it off too. The Ice Blast there. Very nice epicenter. Big rumble in the river, and it seems like Vega have the extra punching power they need. Chasing forward for more. They're going to bring down Nyx. Now onto Muriel, and finally Funnick. At long last, he will be brought down. M19, they were feeling it, man. That Slark was isolated, had no TP, but ends up being the ultimate trap.
Well, double buyback coming in here from M19. No ulti on the Tide, though.
I think you force this if you're Vega.
Yep.
Oh, Slark, meanwhile, has, I think, picked up the moon shards? No, actually, never mind. Has the gold for it, still in the quick buy. But G moves in, gets off the duel. They're trying to lock Funnick down. A 3-hero burrow, a beauty from Afterlife. And now M19 really going to be set back on their heels as they look to finish off this tower. Vega closing in on their second lane of Rex. Nice Queen of Pain ult, but they need a little more follow-up. They're going to lock down the Legion. They almost finish off G, the moment of courage, not enough to save him. He will drop, and now Nyx on the chase, looking for Slayer. Ping Pony back the other way. M19 making moves of their own. They're going to find the Ancient Apparition. Slayer now stealing the Blink and looking to scurry back towards Freedom. Will Misha get there in time? His own Blink on cooldown. Slayer trapped. Blink. And you'll miss it. He's down. He's away for now. Glimmering. Still no teleport scroll, though, on the Rubik. TPs are at a premium this game, it appears, as he looks for the shrine.
He's good.
And he's going to get it.
Very well played there. The Rubik. Baiting out the Blink, too, from the Queen. I'm surprised he actually did that. Because when he pops the Glimmer, obviously the Queen's not going to have detection at this point. It's always the supports. So he just blinks, thinking, okay, I'll just chase, assuming he's going to be walking away. But against the brick, using a Blink like that, it's pretty much just going to help him.
So Vega still ultimately in a pretty okay position here, Andy. They've got the one lane Rex, the tier 3's down. They haven't blown too many buybacks. Still feels like it's very much their game to lose.
I think so as well. The one fortunate thing for M19 is they didn't lose top racks. I mean, sure, the tier 3 is dead, which is a bit of a bummer. It's going to be harder to defend. But at least your Tides respawned, and at least you have Ravage. And that means that you could potentially do another aggressive move if you have a smoke available to buy yourself some time. If they can manage to get their hands on Roshan too, like, take it away from Vega. Because Vega have been the ones who consistently get it.
M19 are congregating here in the Dire jungle up on the northern half of the map. Vega starting to make their way in that direction. Grouping up near the Roche pit and prepping with some wards. Both teams beginning the Roshan dance. If Vega are able to get the Sages, they'll be looking almost certainly to go for that second lane of Rax. And should they get it, probably the GG.
It's a medium spawn, so about 90 seconds after the 8 minutes. Not too fast, not too slow.
Just right.
Gives M19, like we were saying, a little bit of breathing room. Obviously, they're not going to know exactly when it spawns, but they will have everything up.
They're trying to make a go on G here, though. Nyx scouting things out, hesitates a bit, does connect on the Impale. They need the follow-up lockdown, though. He's going to BKB. The Lycan's in position, and G is dropping fairly quickly to the raw physical damage. They're going to Glimmer him back towards safety, but the Claw Bolt secures the kill. Ravage coming out, but hitting absolutely nothing as the real U was BKB'd and just fights his way through it, locking on the Queen of Pain, gets the best to start. Now the duel, the buyback from the Legion, looking to finish off the Lycan. He's very tanky, not an easy takedown, but they gang up on him. Disarmed for now, good use of the Halberd, but still chasing forward. 2 have fallen, no Ravage, no Quad Bolt. Now 3 down, TPing away to Freedom is Misha. He will escape, and so too will Nyx, but Vega just brute forcing their way through this fight.
Would have been a definite teamfight win for M19 had G not bought back. That was very fortunate and unfortunate at the same time for M19. They kill a really big hero taking the Legion out of the fight at the start is perfect for them. But because the tier 2 tower was alive, he just was back in the fight so fast that he was able to lock down the Lycan, and now they're going to be forcing some buybacks of their own here.
And the problem is when you're this late in the game as M19, you blow Ravage, and even even if the fight's like even, they have buybacks. All of a sudden, you are lacking a huge component of your team fight. As the real you is going to punish this. BKBs takes down the racks. Now 2 full lanes, or sorry, 1.5 lanes, but crucially 2 melee racks now taken down. M19 going to be dealing with more and more difficult creep waves as the game moves along.
I guess there is the point in the game for M19 where the Tide being able to buy Refresher and the Queen hitting 25 is probably the strongest point for the actual team fight. Lycan himself falls off a bit, but as far as the overall 5 versus 5, a Refresher Tide and a level 25 Queen can still do some pretty miraculous things. Vega, in the meantime, looks like Roche is their target. They did scout the Wolf, but it walked out of sentry range.
It's a long way to that Refresher, though. Tide Hunter, just the 1 Void Stone could about buy a completed Perseverance. That's really it. So he's got a lot of farming to do if he wants to get there. M19 looking to get back in this game through fights, though. They're going to jump on the real U in the mid lane.
No.
Complete airball on that initial impale, and the real U will walk away. Meanwhile, LTW wants to commit forward. The BKBs come out. The real U lashes onto him. He tries to bring down the Edge Apparition. Will be successful in doing so, but now meets the duel. The Grave is there, well placed. Epicenter revved up, and Funnick waiting for that Ravage. 15 seconds and counting until it'll be ready. Don't think he gets it off. Bashed and forced into submission. Now M19 on the ropes. The Yules is there from Afterlife, and now the lockdown. Muriel poked, prodded, eventually will crumble. Vega find 3, and more importantly, maybe 3 lanes of racks.
That Lycan's dead for over a minute. I think that is definite bottom lane, maybe Megas. Should have enough time. Yeah, no one has buyback at all, actually. That was a fight that I think would have been completely different if they just had the Ravage.
It's quite curious they would try to force it that hard as, well, gee, getting jumped here, but he's too tanky with the moment of courage. He withstands the onslaught. Now they go back the other way. Mish will be brought down. Insta buyback from him. Quap frantically grabbing a couple of tomes, trying to get towards that level 25, but it's really not going to matter. The game is over. M19, they'll tap out here in game 1. Vega off to a quick lead, and it appears that their selection of M19 has paid off, at least for now.
Very impressive game from Vega, although M19 had some glimpses of very well executed team fight. Of course, a little on the back of Vega's own mistakes, but at the end of the day, the greedier lineup ends up taking the game. We kind of knew from the draft that it might go this way if M19 weren't able to bully the lanes enough, hit all their objective timings, and just giving away so many Roshans to Vega. It seems like as soon as they get an item that they need, like the Silver Edge, for example, immediately resulted in them winning a really big fight. Then Roshan. Then they get Roshan again. Then they get it a 3rd time. It's just like, with a Lycan team, if you're not getting Roshan and you're not pushing objectives and just constantly pressuring his 5, it just doesn't really feel like that type of lineup that you want a Lycan to be on.
Yeah, Vega just had such a good landing stage for the given how strong this draft is with farm and with levels, that it became very difficult for M19 to get anything done. So game 1 in the books now, Andy. If you're M19, you mainly look at the way they laned it as the problem more so than the draft, or would you consider changing up the picks as well?
I think the lane was maybe a mistake, but it's hard to judge that beforehand, right? In hindsight, you could say, sure, the lane didn't work out, but in their mind, it's a Slark. That
you should be pressuring.
Yeah, you feel like you should be able to win that lane, and I assume that was the mentality going into it. You can't fault him for it. It just didn't quite work out maybe as much as they wanted it to. And then Funnick, his lane against Afterlife, he was a bit behind in farm, but that's to be expected. I just think his particular rotations maybe came a little bit too late. If they're able to get the mid and the safe lane tier 1 of Vega off the map a bit sooner, it's a lot less real estate for Vega to work with, and that's what you want when you have a Lycan team. You just want to hit those buildings.
All right. Well, they didn't hit enough of them in this game. So game 1 now in the books, guys. It is a best of 3. You're watching the International 2017 CIS Qualifiers. I'm LD. He's Drasko. We'll be back for game 2.
E-Gaming Bets, online betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone